Fans ultimately can make or break the success of a video game. At the end of the day, it's them that the product is for, and it's down to them to buy the product to keep it afloat. So on release, if there's some huge controversy that kind of overshadows every other bit of coverage about the game's creators might be in a bit of trouble. I'm Amy from WhatCulture, and here are 10 fan controversies that dominated video games. 10. For Honor's 5,000 hour grind. For Honor, Ubisoft's multi-period brawler, isn't inherently a bad game. Once time has been invested into leveling different characters up, the fighting becomes almost an art in itself. But that's exactly the problem here. Ubisoft took that notion and threw it very, very far into the distance, meaning that it would take an insanely long time to actually unlock things. In fact, it was worked out to be some 5,000 hours to unlock everything. Or if you don't have that kind of time on your hands, there is a monetary shortcut available. But how much do you reckon it costs to unlock everything using microtransactions? Do you think it's maybe about the price of a deluxe version of the game? Or maybe more like 10 copies? At time of writing, a sum total of $730 would instantly have everything for you. But it would come at the additional cost of removing the entire point of playing to unlock things. Why play the game at that point? As can be expected, lots of people called out this practice. In a day and age where we're having more and more microtransactions shoved down our throat, at one point people are just going to stop taking it. After all the pushback, the time and monetary requirement was significantly shortened, but the damage to reputation, yeah, that'll stick around for longer. 9. Halo Infinite Battle Pass system. Halo, Microsoft's staple first-person shooter franchise, usually can do no wrong. Admittedly, it's had its wobbles, like out-of-timeline sequels, delays, and studio changes, but mostly it came out relatively unscathed. So it would be fair to say that the anticipation for the next generation Halo was high. Players want campaign, they want multiplayer, they want Forge to mess around in. What they don't want, however, are season passes and unfair grind. But that's what battle passes are, and fans were not happy. Tacking on a fee per battle pass and having to put in 300 hours to unlock everything does not sound fun. Halo used to be a simple affair, but as generations expanded, so did the means to play it. But now we're in the century of the microtransaction, and Halo Infinite is no stranger to that either. Reception to this system did not go down well, but the biggest insult to fans? 2 words. Cat ears. 8. Gran Turismo 7's post-review microtransaction meddling. Well, we didn't see this one coming. Not from a series as squeaky clean as Gran Turismo. Sony's groundbreaking racing series has always been well received and had strong community support. Admittedly, it's released a few cash grab demos and needed a few fixes along the way, but it's mostly been unblemished. That is until the latest offering, Gran Turismo 7. Around its launch, it was heralded as the best looking one yet, being showered with praise by fans and critics alike. And then in March, it went down for 24 hours of maintenance, and when it came back, it didn't just have patch fixes, it had microtransactions. That's right, after the review window when the game is expected to capitalize on a strong sales period, Sony added in-game purchases. Not only that, but the costs of the more expensive cars were hiked up to incentivize these purchases. The real scandal here isn't the microtransactions, we just kind of expect that these days. It's more that Sony pulled this after reviews were already out. Needless to say, fans weren't happy, with Gran Turismo 7 now holding the lowest Metacritic user score ever. So seriously, let's not repeat this. 7. Total War Warhammer 3 review bombed in China. Total War has, amongst other campaigns and eras, covered the Warhammer series for a few years now. The fantasy tabletop game is no stranger to video gaming, but it's the third and most recent entry in Total War history that got caught up in controversy. A large contingent of Chinese players took offense with the latest game for 2 very stupid reasons. 1, they weren't happy with the pre-release footage or early gameplay, citing lack of the series' trademark polish. And 2, they didn't give it to series fans or streamers to review it, but instead to some unfamiliar faces who were derisive or negative about it. Instead of just rolling with these issues because they were still going to buy the game anyway, they got their keyboards and flooded review aggregate pages with negative reviews. As such, Total War Warhammer 3 suffered a massive amount of negative reviews, overshadowing whether the final product was actually any good or not. Turns out it was actually on par with the rest of them, making the review bombers look as petty as you'd imagine. 6. Diablo 2 Remaster overshadowed by bad working practices. The Diablo series has been a pinnacle of top-down point-and-click adventure for 25 years. 2 strong entries and a slightly wonky always-online third one a testament to the fanbase it's gathered along the way. Alas, no, the fuss here wasn't so much the release of the Diablo 2 remaster in late 2021, it was the lack of it. After a massive backlash to Diablo Immortal, surely fans would be more welcoming to a remaster of one of the beloved titles. Well, one would imagine they would, if it were not completely overshadowed by the quite serious allegations levelled against Activision Blizzard. There's so much documented evidence of what's going on there that it's not worth trawling over here. Suffice to say, everything that's come out surrounding the terrible work practices has kind of overshadowed everything that they're releasing. The remaster has reviewed quite well, especially given that it didn't really need much improving in the first place. But unfortunately, it has been completely marred by Activision Blizzard quickly overtaking EA as the worst company ever. 5. Street Fighter V's lack of launch content. The Street Fighter series, Capcom's multi-million selling beat-em-up, is no stranger to reiteration. Even as far back as Street Fighter 2 in 1991, the game alone saw several revisions over the years. The difference between that and 2016's Street Fighter V, however, is that Street Fighter 2 was a complete game at launch. Each version was just tweaks, balances, and new characters. For 5's launch, it was very different. For one, it was massively devoid of content. The focus, as Capcom put it, was to put out a game in time for esports tournaments. Fans were given a bare-bones game with barely any single-player or story content, and left feeling very annoyed that they paid full price for what seemed like an unfinished product. A rare non-paid update from Capcom was released shortly after in the way of a free story mode, but that wasn't enough. As such, the game didn't hit its lofty sales expectations because, well, nobody wants to buy half a game. Time has been kind to it, with it now being the second highest selling entry in the series. Yes, it's still plagued with paid content, but you can now buy a more or less complete version with a definitive edition on the way too. 4. Returnal's lack of an easy mode. Another year, another debate about the difficulty in gaming. There'll always be discourse surrounding the difficulty of games and whether stuff is actually too hard or if you just need to get good. In 2021, it was Returnal's time in the spotlight. Roguelikes are synonymous with difficulty, with Housemarque making no allusions to Returnal not being a challenge, and yet, outcries were still made. The biggest grumble was the lack of checkpoints or save points, meaning players had to get as far as they could in one life, as it were. Housemarque later relented, offering players some respite and allowing them to suspend runs in an update, but for the longest time the debate raged on about the game's difficulty. It cast a dark shadow on every positive review of the game. For every one person saying it was fantastic, there was another 2 saying that they weren't sure if they could be bothered to play it because apparently it's just too hard. It seems to have done okay in the end though. I mean, the thing did go on to sell 10 million copies and was Josh Brown's favourite gaming moment of 2021. 3. Battlefield 2042's refund petition. It wouldn't be unfair to assume that EA would have learned this from the broken release of Battlefield 4 in 2013. 8 years later, they clearly hadn't. Whilst the former did get patched into working order, the latter should have been in a fairly competent state for its launch. But no, it just reminded everyone of 2013 instead. As the saying goes, fans voted with their wallets, and not only demanded individual refunds from EA, they went further. A petition to have Battlefield 2014 pulled from every platform, and every player subsequently refunded, was made on the petition site change.org. At time of writing in March, the petition has reached a whopping 2/3 of its 300,000 target. At the end of the day, petitions don't tend to actually mean anything, but they're a good indicator of the general feeling about a topic, and it seems that people are feeling very bad about this. 2. Hot Coffee ignores other game with interactive sex scenes. The backlash behind the 2005 discovery of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' Hot Coffee was insane. The media went crazy, as is the norm, making GTA the pariah of indecency in gaming. In a game about organised crime, murder, and mowing down civilians with your car, I really don't think sex between 2 consenting adults is the most horrible thing. As such, the fans split 2 ways. They were either outraged that their murder simulator had sex in it, or they were upset that the sex was cut out of their murder simulator in the first place. You know, not getting the full bang for your buck, if you'll excuse the pun. Yet, weirdly, with all the fury surrounding it, another game came out that had an interactive sex scene in it. And what was that morally offending game? Fahrenheit. Quantic Dream's weird tale of Mayans and the internet disguised as old women had players play a sexy rhythm game. It was tamer in content than GTA's, but actually included it in the game. So somehow this interactive sex scene managed to get past all the moral outrage because Rockstar were taking all the heat for them. 1. The Last of Us 2's leaks. If you're looking for a lightning rod game in the last few years about fan controversy, look no further than 2020's The Last of Us Part 2. Before the game even came out, it was getting horrendously review bombed on Metacritic. And what was the logic behind this, you ask? Well, people were very angry about purported script leaks alluding to the death of a main character, the addition of a new protagonist, and a so-called woke plot full of those darn LGBTs. Yeah, you heard that right. In this day and age of tolerance, fans were upset about the idea of having a gay shoehorned into their game. As such, The Last of Us Part 2 still gets touted today by some of the worst people on the internet as a chronically woke game. If anyone so much as mentions any new game tackling similar themes, it is instantly dismissed as well. There's no reasoning with these people, because you need to keep in mind that the game itself spans multiple narratives and issues, and the things that they were getting so angry about weren't even the main focal points. In fact, they're just treated as everyday things despite the apocalypse. Everyone doesn't just turn straight because the world is ending. And yet, in the depths of Reddit, this debacle carries on. Look at any thread talking about woke games, and this game will appear, and they will not be saying nice things about it. And the real kicker? Most of the people complaining didn't even play the damn thing. And with that, we've reached the end of this list of 10 fan controversies that dominated video games. I'm sure there's plenty more good ones out there, so let us know in the comments below which ones you would have included. And remember to check out WhatCulture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day. As always, I've been Amy from WhatCulture, and if you need me, I will be looking for the wokest game to play next.